April 17th. Sorry?
Lucky, as quiet as a lamb today.
Well, it's the weather, and I think she's coming out of her heat now.
Oh, that could be.
You know what? It's after that cold they get into heat. You know the cold snap we had.
Yep.
And then yeah, it's pretty well done.
I gave him a nice big warm
Bath?
5-gallon pail soapy water bath.
Well, that's nice.
Oh God, he stunk. He'd been in that stall for months, stunk so bad. He'd been sick. He'd been on drugs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know.
gotta
You know
wash all
what?
that out of a horse and let him start again.
Oh. It's Christy from Greenpeace. Oh, guess who called me the other day? Oh fuck, David Suzuki. Because you know I used to work with him for a period of time at UBC, and back in the day, I used to make him tea, bring him upstairs, 6th floor in the bioscience department. I got to know him really quite well. I got to know his kids and got to know his wife, and you know he was just doing the nature of things, doing segments, and he wasn't doing much lectures at that time, and he always asked me to join his foundation because I was quite a proponent from the government screwing up our aquifer. It's called Brown's Pit, which is basically a federal and provincial. But anyways, he just called to say hello because I haven't talked to him for about a year, if that. I do get texts from his daughter. She was going to come to my place last summer, train me to scuba dive in my pool, which never materialized.
You tell Mike Darnell.
She's over the island there, right?
Oh yeah, she's married to a hider.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, so it was nice. I chatted with him for about 10 minutes. It sounds to me now, he's getting to that age, you know, I have to talk very slowly to him, that I asked him questions, but sometimes I feel that he forgot what I asked him. He's 80, in his 80s.
Yeah.
Mid-80s, I think.
No, I mean, I knew David well. Like I said, I was going to say, you see Mike Darnell says hi, Dave, but...
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, fuck, I did a lot of work with Dave. Shit.
Oh, well, okay.
Christ, I was the national environment chairman for the Canadian Auto Workers. We gave
okay.
Dave a lot of money. The last time I was on I was online with him.
Yeah.
I opened up a school in Ontario.
Oh,
That
okay.
teepee school.
Yeah. Cupie.
Teepee.
Oh, teepee, sorry.
I
okay.
opened a school in a 30-foot diameter teepee.
Wow.
Paid $10,000, set the whole school up in Windsor, Ontario. And it was a school for the public and for local kids to come and learn about the environment.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So it took me for 6 months to set it up. The auto workers paid me to come out and set it up. I brought them the idea. I set the whole thing up. And when I opened the school,
Yep.
the person I invited to come and open the school was
Yep.
David.
Oh,
So I said, Dave,
how many years ago was this then?
The year before I came to this farm.
Oh, really?
Yep. So I called him up and said, Dave, I need you to open the school. And he goes, wow, that's incredible. What a fucking great concept, my guy. But I'd known Dave from, you know, the environment movement. And so anyway, brought him out and he opened up the school. Brought 80 kids into that fucking teepee. Dave sat in front of them all afternoon, talked about these. Just fucking incredible.
Yep.
Go online. I think you can still catch the whole thing online. The Canvas Campus.
The Canvas Campus?
Campus.
Oh, campus, okay.
Canvas Campus.
Canvas
That's what I called it.
Campus.
I registered it as the
Canvas Campus, okay.
And Dave Suzuki. So but anyway, when I was going through that, he and I are emailing back and forth, and he says to me, one day he emails me, he goes, me and Margaret are thinking of driving across Canada on our bicycles and stopping in all these towns and having press conferences on the environment.
Yep.
And then he said, but on the other hand, Mike, he says, I think I'm getting too old to do something like that, like driving across Canada on a bike. So this is about 7, 8 years ago. And so I emailed him back as a lie, and I said, David, and I'll never forget what I said to him. I said, David, never forget that in military terms, being old means you're not dangerous. And I said, you're still very dangerous, so you're not old.
That's good. That's a good one.
And he went, thanks for that, Mike.
Yeah.
So he and I were in the Fort Garry Hotel having lunch one day, and we were alone down in the bottom of the restaurant. And and both of us. And when Dave's, when he's not around somebody, he's a pretty animated guy.
Oh,
He's
of
gonna
course.
swear and this and that.
Well, of course.
So he and I are talking about something about the environment minister, and he goes, So Dave goes,
Halfway?
you didn't say that. And he's hitting his hand on the table and everything. And Dave and I are both, we're highly animated, but we're alone. We're going through this thing. So anyway, after lunch is over, we walk out and we go into the lobby. And I feel something. I turn around and I look, and there's a crowd of people behind me and Dave. There's about 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a great big tall man who was a counselor from Toronto City. He goes, "Excuse me, gentlemen. I feel embarrassed, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I know who you are." He points to Dave, and what are you guys talking about? So I started laughing.
You know,
I said, "You want to know what we're talking about?" I said, "We have a public go-around tonight at 7 o'clock in such and such hotel," kind of thing. But of course, that wasn't what. I was telling Dave about a meeting I just had with John today.
yep.
And John Shadé, and I was having lunch with him in Ottawa. And John Shadé is saying, because he's the environment minister for, Mulroney.
Yep. You know, Brian Mulroney.
Yeah. And so John Shadé and I he's invited me to have lunch with him. And so he says, "Mike, my government put $3 billion into the environment." And there's only 4 of us at this fucking table. And I said, "Yeah." But he said, "Here's the problem." I said, "We've been trying to get you for years to bring a regulation to stop ships from dumping their ballast water into Lake Erie.
Okay.
And you refused to do it. And now, because you didn't do it, they've dumped all their zebra mussels into Lake Erie, and now the zebra mussels are taking over the entire Great Lakes, and your own estimate says it's going to cost $6 billion to clean up.
How much?
$6 billion to do the entire Great Lakes system of Canada." And so I said, "So much for your $3 billion in the environment. You
Yeah.
got rid of it by not bringing in a regulation."
There you go.
And so we're alone at the table, and Tony Clark, who's his assistant, his executive assistant, he goes, he's uncomfortable. So he turns to me, he goes, "Well, Mike," he says, "Rome wasn't built in a day." That was his answer.
There you go.
And I broke out laughing. I said, "Tony, I have to remind you that Rome is no longer with us."
So
No.
that was way better
That's
than
what I
the
said
last
to him.
couple.
So anyway, I told this conversation to Dave, and Dave's just coming out of his clothes. Anyway,
Well, it's good. I mean, when I first, I was just a rookie in the zoology. They hired me in '79, yeah. And I got to know him. And I didn't work directly for him, but I did a lot of things for him. And in the bioscience, which is where the main office from zoology is consolidated with botany. But there's no washrooms on the 6th floor, okay? David Suzuki hated to go down the elevator because, so many students in there, you have to wave,
Yeah, yeah.
park and blah. So what he did, he hung his thing out the fucking window, made sure nobody was below.
sure.
Not a big deal until some student, and it was a windy day,
Sooner or later, you're gonna pick a fight with it. You're gonna say no.
boy, shit hit the fan. Yeah,
Well, one of my best friends was Jim Fulton. Remember, Jim ran his foundation for the last 10 years. Jim Fulton.
I don't know too many people in the foundation
Oh, okay,
themselves.
yeah.
Okay, I don't.
Jim Fulton was a member of Parliament, most popular guy in Ottawa, and when Ed Broadbent retired, everybody begged Jim to become the leader of the party, but David offered him a fucking job as director of the Suzuki Foundation. And I said, "David, you cunt, like Jim
Which is why I was
is a
pushing
national
reform for
fucking
the
leader who
authority.
can
I'm
do
not
something."
saying
But
it's
anyway,
wrong.
and I went right to
So
Jim's office and said, "Jim, this is a fucking mistake." Mike, he said, "This is my dream job, director of the Suzuki Foundation." I said, "Jim, leader of the national federal New Democrats, like you are popular." Like everybody loved him. The Tories. Jim was a big 6'3", I ran for Parliament in 1992. And when he found out that I was running for Parliament, he insisted that he come down and nominate me in my riding. So he flew down. There were 300 people at the meeting, and Jim Fulton got up and fucking talked for an hour and had people in the fucking stitches. Like, he was a brilliant speaker.
So like a comedian.
Well, he would tell you
could
what's
make-
really happening, but he used to be in the prison system.
Oh, okay.
He was with the authorities. He's 6'3". That's a
Pretty
doctor.
pretty big guy.
Oh yeah, fucking Jim, big black beard on him, and so anyway, so I'm running against a guy named Jerry Picard,
Yeah.
member of Parliament.
Yeah.
Jim flies down to my riding, and he says to everybody in the audience, "I've known Mike Darnell for a long time. You don't know Mike. I know Mike. Don't worry about it. Mike knows Mike. I'll never forget. That's the important thing." And so he said, "No, folks," he said, "when I heard Mike was running against a man named Jerry Picard, I said, Jerry who?" He said, "I found out I'd been sitting across from this guy for 3 years in Parliament, and I didn't even know him."
No.
He said, "I had to look him up in Hansard,"
Yeah.
and it's true, he'd been in Hansard 16 times, but they were all on the same day. And he's just, and then he said, and I'm going to quote him, "Folks, never has one man been paid so much money to represent so many people and done so little." Quote.
Wow.
Well, a fucking Windsor Star, that's the headline. Never has one guy done so little or something. Well, that's it. Monday morning, Jerry Picard stands up in the House of Commons. Sorry, Wednesday morning, it's question period. And he goes, "Point of order, Mr. Speaker." He says, "On, last Friday, the honorable member from Skeena came into my riding and belittled me and besmirched me and this and that. He's a scumbag, Mr. Speaker." That's what he says about Jim Fulton. And so Jim Fulton's out taking a leak. So he comes back in the House of Commons, and Bill Blakey, remember Bill?
Who? Bill
Bill
who?
Blakey, another big guy from the NDP kind of thing.
It sounds familiar.
He says to Jim Fulton comes back in and sits down and he goes, "What the fuck did you do to that guy?" And Jim Fulton goes, "Who?" He says, "That Jerry Picard." "What do you think?" He says, "We just got up to the speaker on a point of order and called you a scumbag." And so Jim Fulton says, "What?" So he says to what's her name beside him,
Your next thing is,
"True?" She goes,
just hold up a minute.
"You scumbag."
Your next thing
He
is
said,
shoulder
"In the
roll.
house?" "Yeah, to the
Now,
speaker."
you've got exactly
Because
the same
now,
movement where
because
you
Jim's
bring
in
the shoulder
Washington.
roll.
So fucking Fulton goes nuts.
He's got a temper.
Oh yeah, the session ends right there. Jim steps out the door, and Jerry Pickard comes out the door, and I got this from 4 guys that are standing right there. Jerry walks out the door, right out of the House of Commons, and as soon as he walks out of the question chamber, Jim reaches forward and grabs his tie. Boom!
Just like that, eh?
Fucking yards him out. He says, "Let me tell you something, asshole. If you ever fucking call me a scumbag," he said again, and he said, "and I'm in the fucking house," he said, I don't make a habit of tickling first-time members' ears. But he said, "If you ever fucking talk to me, I will step over the floor, and it won't be to tickle your ear." And fucking Picard is free.
He's
To
freaking
Jim's
out.
6'3", and he's got a fucking temper, and he's funny guy kind of thing, but he's a bright guy. So anyway, Jerry is terrorized. So he goes out and puts out this huge editorial in the Globe and Mail and the what do you call it? But how Jim Fulton and Mike Darnell have conspired to destroy his fucking career. How I'm saying bad things about him to all the to people in the ride. Anyway, he was just going insane. The Fulton and the Mike show. And of course, because they're going, "What's Jim Fulton doing down at Mike Darnell's riding?" Jim Fulton's out of Skeena. I'm down in Essex County
Yeah.
in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a gong show. But yeah, David ended up running the fucking Suzuki Foundation for the next 10 years and died in that job, unfortunately.
Yep.
Stomach cancer or something that
Wow.
was horrible. I went to his memorial up there, met Dave and everything. And
Well, the thing was, the last time I really had an interaction with them, it was the time, oh God, it must be close to 10 years ago when Browns Pit, when they were widening Highway 1, when they were doing the new bridge, when they're dismantling the old Port Man, they wanted to dump all their shit somewhere, so when they wanted to dump it over the Browns Pit. Well, our aquifer is there.
right.
But the governments didn't give a shit, right? Even though all that aquifer water, there's a lot of arsenic in there, we drink that shit.
Oh yeah.
So there was a big political upheaval about it, and he got involved, along with other politicians. I got involved in my own little way, more Forest supporter. And yeah, they decided, yeah, it's not a good idea to put all that old Highway 1 debris,
Right.
whether it's old asphalt, anything, over the Browns Pit. And people walk their dogs in there, you know, you're not supposed to, but if you ever come up to my place, you'll see a sign, the government side. As you come up the hill and you turn right, you'll see the government sign. That's Browns Pit right there,
in the trees.
right? And then people are also upset if they were to be allowed to go ahead and dump all the debris there.
crazy thing
All the
about-
dump trucks would be going back and forth all hours of the night.
The crazy thing about Dave that people don't remember is that Dave didn't get famous as being an environmentalist. Dave became famous as a geneticist and his experiments with fruit flies.
Yeah, yes.
That's when he
Okay.
became famous.
Okay. Speaking of fruit flies, I used to breed them for him. I used to breed them all for him.
There you
In
go.
little bottles like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're easy, very easy to breed.
Yeah, no, that was his claim to
Yep.
fame. Environment was after that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he made a number of really revolutionary breakthroughs in genetic continuance with
Yeah.
fruit flies. That I remember.
And then I asked him also if it was okay, because I used to look after the rufous-sided Anna's hummingbirds in an indoor aviary. And I asked him if it's okay if I bred a few extra bottles to give
Right.
to the hummingbirds. He says, "Art, you go ahead. I'll leave it up to you. You're in charge." So that was all good. He was very, yeah, I got along with him very well. But he knows, because where I worked,
Come to your left, turn left,
animals
turn
were
left,
used
turn
in
left.
research.
Yeah, yeah.
Not so much now, today. And that's why my name
That's what I was going to say. Go
to the
left, start
department,
again.
to the Board of Governors, which I had meetings with, I didn't want my name anywhere in on the web
Oh, yeah.
because of the work I did.
Yeah,
Because, you know, there was times, Mike, when I drove home out of the compound at where I worked, all the animal rights people were there, and they demanded for me to open up my trunk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shit like that, right? And so I asked everybody in confidence, keep my name off the grid.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, in those days.
Because, and even now, I used to get, not hate mails, but I was more of a policeman with the wild animals,
Right.
right? And, you know, I did some shit to some researchers.
Well, let me tell you something, Art. The way this COVID virus is going around, we could all be vegetarians pretty quick.
Absolutely.
In fact, I stopped by and bought a 10-pound bag of flour yesterday.
Oh, good for you. All right, well, you have a good weekend.
Cheers, Mike.
Yep, you as well.
Straighten out, half circle reverse. Start straight back towards
Is Chris
you.
Kuma on tonight?
Start straight
But he wasn't on last night because the Biden was on with Anderson
Turn that left hand. A little bit more leg. Spur. Put a spur.
and Zettelberg.
Go
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's what you need to do.
His wife's got it, but not that.
Do a circle
Yeah.
back in front of me and come down to walk. And hold a minute. When you're asking for that leg yield,
Do that.
yes, but you're doing this,
Okay.
okay? And you got no spur on here.
No.
She needs that a little bit with that spur. So all you do is keep that heel down, turn the toe out, now you got spur contact. And if she's not listening to you, that's going to push her off a little bit. And just manage that then. But you're trying, when I say more leg, all you're doing is doing this, and you're trying to get her, and there's no response
No.
happening.
Got it.
Nothing's changing. So you got to get that toe out a little bit, that you come a little bit
I
more
have to
proactive
stop
with the spur.
doing that. Stop crawling.
And what it is, it's this left leg.
Yeah. Oh, is it just the left leg?
The left leg. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Right. Your half circle reverse, go back in the right train and do that movement again.
Half circle reverse.
So you're coming down on the right hand rein, haunches in first into what you've just done, and you're going to correct it. Okay, sitting trot. Okay, coming up with haunches in.
Well, thank you.
Good movement. Okay, straighten out. Half circle reverse.
Nice. Fancy.
Start straight. Now think about this left leg and the leg yield. Ask for it. Here you go. again, you've got to manage that forward rhythm. When the spur comes on, it doesn't mean go forward. It's the spur on one side only, so you want that yield away. Is what you want, not an increase in pace. So you're managing that increase that she's wanting to volunteer through your hand and sitting up tall and turning that into a sideways movement. Right, sitting trot, horses in down the long side. Come on, keep it. Keep it. Your left leg, keep her on the fence. Good. Straighten out. Half circle reverse. Back towards me. Start straight. And leg yield. Better this way, isn't it? Yeah. Good. Awesome. Rising trot. Serpentine and 4 loops. Make sure you go from side to side. This side will be challenging on these 2 loops coming this side, but ride it the best you can. Just watching what's going on in the tree. And your job is to keep her attention focused on you, not what's happening down there. Good. And come back in 4 loops.
Well, that horse next door.
We're good. Just
good.
go.
Just keep going forward.
Did I lose anything? No.
No,
I think so.
My feet went far in though.
I got it all on tape.
You're good with your heels down, and that saves you.
Yeah.
Come back into the circle at the top here. Regain a little bit of composure. Good. Right, ride her a little bit straighter on the circle. And pick up your free trotting line. Right. Now hold and steady. Good. Keep hold again. Good job, well done. When you've got that big step forward, careful not to lean forward. You stay up tall, you got to follow it, but don't get forward with it. Not jumping.
Oh, I thought I was.
That's next week. That's it, good.
Nice.
Once more. Awesome. Good on.
Oh God, really?
Just go forward.
Half circle reverse. Settle. Come back on the diagonal, short diagonal. Right, back over the poles in the other direction. Hold her up.
I know I went too far over
Yes, you
there.
did. So, this next time around, make sure you don't go too far in the circle. The circle doesn't have corners. You're creating a corner by squaring up. Keep coming around. Keep coming around. That's better. And you're still getting a little bit to the outside of the first pole that you end up coming back across it. You want to hit the first pole here and take it straight across the center. There.
Yikes, that seemed
That's
like an
better.
angle. Okay.
Again, idea where you're wanting her to go. It's your eye that you've got to set it up that it becomes symmetrical. Good. And then slowly square on your shoulders as the rider. It's where you put her and what you make happen. Good job. Right. You get the poles, go around the top of the poles this time. A little bit straighter in your circle. And on the quarter circle there, come back to walk. Go forward. And give her a long race. A little break.
I felt a raindrop.
I think that little scoot over there was more the people in the paddock behind her.
Oh, the horses?
No. In the tree.
Uh-huh.
She ran away from that a little bit first and scooped Dee next to me.
I saw, yeah, the whole kerfuffle and mass there. Like, and then how the hell did I end up facing that way? I don't know.
She span to see what she was running from.
Oh, okay.
Span around.
I was just like a little piece of shit on her back. Didn't mean anything to
No.
her.
Yeah, but you.
Starting green. Spotting. Raining, Arthur.
Oh, I thought somebody was spitting.
You're more than 2 meters away.
Yeah, that-
I think my biggest concern was that my feet went through the stirrup. Like, went deep in. What? Because I didn't have my heels down enough?
yeah, that can happen,
Is
eh?
that why?
Yeah, and what happens in a thing like that? It's a natural instinctive thing that when there's a panic situation, naturally you curl up into fetal position.
Okay.
It's a natural thing for people to do. Now, when you're sitting on a horse's back, you've got to try and fight that and sit up taller and stretch so that you do keep your heel down. You stay with a length of leg on the horse's side because that's what's going to keep you in the saddle when things go sideways. But it is natural. You get a fright like that if you curl up into fetal position. Like if you're going to fall off, naturally, then you want to be curling up into fetal position because you're going to tuck and you're going to hit the ground and you're going to roll. If you spread out and kind of stay there, when you hit the ground, that's when you break limbs. Okay? So when you fall, if you feel like you're coming off, that's where you want to curl.
Well, I didn't
tuck
feel
up.
at all like I was going to come off.
know.
But if she kept going, I may have.
Oh yeah, because she goes from one
Yeah.
side to the other, and you get left and you get one-sided. And
Yeah. But my concern went straight to why are my feet so far through the stirrups if I do fall? If I do fall, I don't want to
it's
there.
that natural instinct that you did. You obviously came up a little bit with your leg,
Yeah.
and so the stirrup comes back on your foot. If you keep your feet are where they are now, and you put their weight in the stirrup, that stirrup doesn't move on your foot.
No.
It's only moved for one reason, and that's because you brought your leg up.
My little angel isn't such an angel. No, she isn't.
Somebody scared her down
She
there.
got scared, I know.
It's only a horse,
Yeah.
and all horses are horses.
Even I get scared, and that's saying something big. I don't scare easy.
Okay, take her out to the left and walk her down past the bottom where you had the little scare.
Really?
Just at the wall. Yes, at the wall.
Are you coming with us?
No. I can talk to you through the microphone. I don't need to.
You got 3 of us watching.
A little bit closer to the fence. Come on, come on, come on.
I'm gonna make you get on, mister. You come on, you get on her.
Oh.
You have your hat?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're gonna have to make do with what I'm doing.
Walking the rain a little bit. Give her a little rub with the inside hand. There you go. Just reassure her. Now, she's entitled to
It's got itchy.
Flies.
Oh, flies? Well, itch, yeah.
Come down to walk a minute. Just see if I can rub, get something bites in it.
I wonder if it's the rain hitting her.
Try a couple of circles there. It's more just to get over the phobia that it can't, well, you know, it's been alright in the past, it will come back again. I think you can see it also. Hold on,
Oh, do I try?
try, hold on. Try the circle again. And another one. Good. Just like it. That's it. Just like it. Keep on. Keep your body up tall, keep it nice in your position, support everything. You know, in a situation like this where she is a little bit anxious and she's a little bit worried, now is the time, more importantly than any other time, that your riding stays correct. Okay? When she's feeling good, it doesn't matter if it relaxes a little bit. Not that it should, but nothing's going wrong. Now that where she needs the support all the way through, correctness from you needs to be 100% to give her the experience that she needs and the support that she needs. Steady. There we go. Steady. There's a nice little correction. Once more. Okay, down the bottom there where she started to run a little bit again, I want the downward transition back to walk this time. So coming up, just past the cones in the corner, sitting trot and down to walk. That's it. Little half circle reverse. Walk her back to that first part of the corner, and on the fence pick up your trot, staying on the circle. Keep going. Okay, starting at the bottom here, let's do a serpentine and a 4 loops up to the top. Your first loop coming through. Right up to the fence there, coming across, in front of me. Yep, half altered. Out to the left, that's it. Right. Out to the right. And back out to the left. And into your 20-meter circle. Now get the circle nicely. You want it up against the fence next time round. Sit up nice and tall yourself. Good. quite a bit going on today. I think she started a little bit with the second season, like I said earlier. Then with the rain, and with the people in the paddock here, and that rattles you more than it rattles her. I think she reacts more to your,
I didn't even see them there.
Yeah, there were some people in the bushes there.
yeah.
When she spooked, I didn't even know they were there.
No, but so that initiated. Once that happens, now you know something's going on. Now she's pensive because
Yeah.
she feels your anxiety there.
Okay.
And then the part of the ride following on from that has all been that, just the fact that you don't relax. You've got to learn to get through that. What happens in one instant is not relative to the next time you come back past it.
Okay.
Because it can be a different kettle of fish.
Okay.
Totally. You've got to put it past you, go back. And like I said, more importantly, your riding has got to be more consistent and more on its game in those times when it's going a little bit pear-shaped,
Yeah.
rather than, sitting all
Tense.
tense and pensive and waiting for something to go wrong. Now you want to, not that you want to bully them into going, but they just need the support that everything's okay.
Yeah.
We are the wiser beings. We're the one that's dictating what. No, we're not. I know that. But we're coming with the dictation side that this is what we're going to be doing. You've got to come there without forcing it, but saying it's okay. We can still do this.
And I think, I try very hard because I remember one day you said to me, put your leg on, outside leg on, hold her, because that's what you're doing and relax. So I did try to do that, but yeah, that was kind of scary.
Yeah, and it will come. I mean, because yes, nobody expects the horse to try and bolt out from underneath you and do what she did there. But those reactions come. Always remember, any horse, and it doesn't matter how good that horse is, any horse has got that natural fright and flight instinctive nature. And any horse is like that.
I think hers was greener than most because all the other ones that spook usually will spook a little bit and then stop for me, She was a little bit
But
more
she reacts to this. If another horse runs a little bit in the paddock or the horses are running in the backfield there a little bit, she's up because they're doing that. She picks up on that. And that's where it's really important to try and keep her focused on what you're asking. And it doesn't matter what's going on in there in the outside world. Although we're at home here and there's horses running there or there's monkeys in the trees there, whatever it is, the focus is on you because this is your hour now. Your 1 hour out of 24 hours in the day. And she does what you want now.
Good. Well,
39 minutes.
well
The first 18 minutes, you can hear Mike and me, 18 minutes.
Lord, again.
No, but after the 18 minutes, the big guy took over.
Okay. Okay, well that was good. I mean, scary, but at least you were here. I would have never even ridden up there again.
And it's just that you gotta take it back there. You gotta try and get a couple of good circles. So she learns by it too.
And she did do the good circles,
she
didn't
did.
she? She actually was less reactive down there. When I came back here, she kept.
And
kinda
anything where she
spooking
was
around
just
here.
up a little bit, she's up because you're up.
Yeah. I know. I have to calm. I'm a spaz, right? I just freak out, and then that's it. It's in me.
Well, you know what? It's just your reaction. It's just the way it is.
Well, yeah. I'm not one for
Getting
putting
spooked.
myself in positions like that. Like if I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, we just won't go up there then.
You know what? Yeah.
But thanks for making me go back up there. That was good.
problem.
I mean, whether you thought it was good or not, it was
I have
good
no
for
problem
me.
asking you to go back up there again.
And you know what? Honestly, I don't get as spooked when I don't get as spooked. Forget the horse. When horses are running, I almost can deal with that. It doesn't really scare me as much. This was scarier to me because of her reaction.
All right, can I stop now?